Video for lesson 1.01 algebraic expressions. We're going to really be getting started with the fundamental pieces of algebra here, the expressions. And so we might ask ourselves, what is an algebraic expression? Well, let's give it a definition, because that is usually a good way to understand what something is. Algebraic expressions, and I hope you're taking notes at home on a piece of paper, like I am here. Or if you have an iPad or some other kind of a device that you like to use, using that is just fine as well. So it's a mathematical sentence, and I'll try to make this as legible as possible. Mathematical sentence that contains numbers. And you might want to develop a shorthand, like that means numbers for me. If you want to write the word numbers, you can. This is a little number symbol. Contains numbers, variables, and operations. And you might ask, well, what are the operations? Well, operations like addition, subtraction, etc. And as an example, or I'll do a couple examples. X plus 4, that's an algebraic expression. 2x squared minus 5x plus 3, that's an algebraic expression. Square root x, that's an algebraic expression. Notice that none of those have an equal sign. Expressions do not have an equal sign. So the next question you might ask is, well, what's a variable? This algebraic expressions, they have variables. And I don't know what variables are. Well, what are variables? Let's define them. Variables, or let's do variable, singular. It's a symbol, usually a letter. Let's spell symbol correctly. And it's often X, which takes the place of an unknown value. So up here, this X, it's an unknown value. We don't know, it's a number, but we don't know what it is, so it's a variable. Here, those are, because they're in the same expression, they are the same unknown value. If we added like this up here, now we have two variables, x and y, and they don't necessarily represent the same value, though they can. We just don't know. Okay? All right. And the next thing that we need to think of is the idea of a term. So terms are parts of, a term are parts of expressions separated by a plus or minus sign. And so if we think of something like 2x squared minus 3y minus z plus 6, then we have four terms here. Here is one term, and then I use the subtraction sign, the minus sign there, is part of the second term. minus z is the third term, and plus 6 is the fourth term. Now the 6 is called a constant because it's just a number. Okay, so that is a term. The next thing is called a factor. Factors, and are we going at an okay pace here? Is everything good? Factor. Numbers you multiply together to produce a product. So let's do plural. Factors are numbers you multiply together to produce a product. And so if you think of our example above right here, so 2 and x squared are factors because this says 2 times x squared. And actually, x is a factor because x squared is x times x. So you can even say, you can break that down even further, and x is a factor. So we're multiplying those together, so they're factors. So negative 3 and y are factors. And when you look at this one, this subtract z, you may think there aren't any factors, but it's actually a negative 1 and z are factors. Because if there's no number listed in front of a variable, it's actually a 1, in this case a negative 1. All right? And in the last one, we actually could look at positive 6 and say 2 and 3 are factors of 6 because 2 times 3 is equal to 6. Okay? The next thing we need to understand
and a number
is
to write a term.
Coefficient. So a coefficient is the number listed in front of a variable. So coefficient is the number listed in front of a variable. So notice that it's a factor and it's a coefficient. So up here, 2 is the coefficient, but it was also a factor. Negative 3 is the coefficient, it was also a factor. Negative 1 is the coefficient, and it's a factor. In this case, 6 is a constant, and 2 and 3 are factors. So we don't call 6 a coefficient, we call it a constant. And we don't usually think of like 1 and 6 as being factors. They're factors, but they're I'm not going to go into that. The last term is constant. Constants are numbers that stand alone. That is, they aren't multiplied by a variable in the expression. Now, so we are about 10 minutes into this video, and you might feel like we have not done any math yet. And that's true. We're learning the terms in this lesson. That's the first thing that we're doing. So that is really what this lesson is about. And we'll talk more. I'm going to do more on this lesson, but that is it for today right now.